do you consciously consider the same things a jazz instrumentalist thinks when you practice improvisation, e.g., or for example, phrasing, rhythmic placement, harmony, tone, time feel, etc.? I always found your approach so fascinating and different to other rappers, as you are coming from the perspective of also being a jazz drummer. Excuse me. Yes, 100%. Everything that I learned as a jazz musician, I was learning at the same time that I was figuring out how to rap. Because I started rapping and playing drums at the same time. I was like 10 years old when I wrote my first rhyme, and I think I was 10 years old when I got my first drum set and started taking lessons. So to me, it was all kind of like one thing. But what was interesting was that like with jazz, I was learning it from teachers and like programs that I was becoming a part of, you know, and opportunities that I had to like go to like jazz camps during the summer or like be part of like a youth organization that had like a jazz band, and I would be part of these groups, or just through school being part of the jazz band. So I was learning it more in like from a curriculum that exists, right? Because like jazz studies is a thing. There's not like a freestyle studies program, you know, or you can't learn how to become a rapper in school. So that was the difference, was like I was learning these things about jazz in a very sort of like in a structured way, in a more structured way. And there's language around them and there's words for everything. But then with rap, I think I was kind of like subconsciously incorporating those things without necessarily even realizing it. But rap just felt like I was just playing, you know, like it was just like the most freeing thing, because it was like my thing that me and my friends were into, you know. It wasn't like, it had nothing to do with my parents or my teachers or my coaches or anybody else. It was like, nah, dude, like this is the shit. And we just want to do this because it's fun. But yeah, now at this point, there are so many things that I learned by being a jazz drummer and being a jazz musician that I incorporate into my freestyling all the time. Like all my phrasing and rhythm comes from you know, playing the drums, and obviously listening to a lot of hip hop music. So I guess I can't say it all comes from playing the drums, but basically my approach and my comfort improvising rhythmically, and my intuitive sort of like sense of how to create a satisfying phrase, right? Like like that. Like it repeats twice, it varies, and then it goes back. Right? So there's that motif of and it has repetition and like variation on a theme, and these sort of like structures that are just underpinning everything and making it more satisfying to the listener. And while I'm freestyling, I'm not consciously thinking about like, oh, make sure you do a A-B-A rhythmic, you know, embellishment on a motif. You're not thinking about it because you've trained the muscle memory, so to speak, and these things are now just taken for granted. They're just a part of my natural instincts as a musician. But yeah, I mean, so much of it comes from playing the drums and playing jazz. And, you know, that's why I love to improvise as a rapper, you know, and that's why I love to freestyle off the top of the dome so much, is because to me, it's like the most organic and natural way for me to express myself. And it always feels right, you know, and I never really have to question it. And once I start flowing, I'm immediately entranced, and I could just do it forever.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
I did see the rhythmic side always, but I hadn't really thought about it until you just talked jazz right before this.
Yeah.
It's got to help with the freestyle that you were trained to listen to your bandmates and observe the whole time when you're a jazz player. So now when you're rapping, you're doing the same thing, just with the environment, the people around you, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's a great point, dude. Yeah, I actually never really thought about that. But yeah, it's like, as a jazz musician, one of the first like hurdles you have to get over when you first sort of like get decent at playing is you have to be reminded that you need to listen, you know, because that's what happens is like, it's so hard to get your chops together, right? Like to get your basic skills together. It takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. And once you start to have a little bit of skill and you have some chops, you're proud of that. And you know, you don't have the maturity yet to know that you shouldn't just show off your shit all the time. That's what everybody wants to do. You know, when they first get some chops, they just use them all the time. even when they don't apply, you know? So that's when that'd be like if you go meet your girlfriend's friend group at the bar and you just start talking at everybody and, don't leave any space for them to say anything. And when they do say something, you're like, yeah. But as I was saying, and you continue with your shit, which sometimes we accidentally fall victim to that, right? Or we know people who tend to do that, and doesn't make for a fun conversation, right? So yeah, that's one of the first major hurdles is all of the older, wiser teachers. Usually it's like the OGs will be like, yo, you got to stop with all these chops. You're playing too much. You're not even hearing what this dude is saying. Open your ears and listen and contribute when there's a space for you to contribute and you have something valuable to say. And so, yeah, I never thought about it, but that is super helpful because when I'm freestyling, I'm not just in a silo. Like, it's not like I start freestyling and then I put blinders on and I don't notice anything. I have to keep the antenna up and stay super aware of the environment because all of the information coming into me is valuable and useful and essential to what I'm going to say next in my freestyle. So that's an awesome point, dude. That's amazing.